What if I told you the most powerful woman in media once wore dresses made from potato sacks? What if I told you the billionaire who inspires millions was once a little girl sleeping on a dirt floor, wondering if she'd eat that day? And what if the very pain she wished to escape became a fire that built her empire? Be of silence. This is the story of a girl who had nothing and became everything. Before she was a billionaire, before the world knew her name, she was just a little girl in a one-room shack in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. The floor wasn't carpet, it wasn't even wood. It was dirt, cold in the winter, burning in the summer. She slept on potato sacks stitched together by her grandmother. And yet, somehow this little girl believed she was meant for more. But where did that belief come from? And how did it survive when everything else seemed so hopeless? Her grandmother, Hattie Mae, was a woman carved from discipline and scripture. If Oprah mispronounced a word from the Bible, she'd be hit with a switch. If she didn't do chores, there was no supper. But there was also something else. Hattie Mae made her recite verses in front of the church every Sunday. That's where Oprah first learned the power of her voice. But how could a shy farm girl with no shoes imagine speaking to millions one day? When the chores were done, Oprah would wander through the tall grass fields alone. Her only friends were the crickets and the wind. Sometimes she'd talk to herself, telling stories to the sky. She didn't know it yet, but she was practicing. Every word, every made-up character was training for something bigger. But could a childhood so isolated really prepare her for spotlight? By the time she moved to Milwaukee to live with her mother, the world changed, and not for the better. City life wasn't kind to a shy country girl. The kids laughed at her clothes, homemade dresses that looked like they belonged to another century. She felt invisible, or worse, unwanted. But what happens to a dream when the world tells you you're not enough? There are chapters of Oprah's life she kept hidden for years. Memories too heavy for a child to carry. She faced abuse, betrayal, things no little girl should ever endure. And yet, she still got up each morning, still went to school, still smiled when she had to. But how much pain can someone take before they break? And why didn't she? Scene 6. A brief escape through books. Studio microphone voiceover. Her only escape was a library. In the pages of books, she became queens, explorers, warriors. She could travel anywhere, be anyone. And with each story, she learned something powerful. Knowledge could be her ticket out. But how do you turn imagination into reality when you have no money, no connections, and no map? At 14, Oprah's life hit rock bottom. She ran away from home, pregnant, scared, and with nowhere to go. The baby died shortly after birth. Most people would have been broken forever. But Oprah made a choice not to let tragedy define her. Her father, Vernon Winfrey, stepped in, and with him came rules, discipline, and a belief that education could save her. Could strict love really change the course of her life? She entered a public speaking contest and won. For the first time, someone told her she was special, that her voice mattered. It lit a fire that would never go out. But still, how does a girl from a dirt floor shack go from winning a small town contest to owning a billion-dollar empire? It was 1976. Oprah walked into a Baltimore newsroom for the first time, a shy 22-year-old woman, unsure if she even belonged there. The air was thick with cigarette smoke, typewriters clatter in the background, and men in crisp shirts who barely glanced her way. She was told, read the teleprompter and don't mess up. But here's the thing. Oprah didn't just read. She spoke to the camera like she was speaking to a friend sitting right across from her. Her eyes didn't just follow the words, they told a story. And when the segment aired, viewers noticed. Calls came in not to complain, but to say, that girl on TV, she's different. She didn't know it yet, but this was the start of a climb that would take her from local TV to the most powerful stage in the world. Baltimore gave her something Chicago would never forget, her voice. She wasn't the polished, plastic-faced anchor the networks wanted. She was raw, she was real, and she asked the questions nobody else dared to ask. When she interviewed people, they didn't just answer, they opened their hearts. One day, she was called into the office. A man in a tailored suit looked her dead in the eye and said, "We're moving you to Chicago. You'll be hosting a little morning show. It's nothing special, but let's see what you can do." Oprah didn't know it then, but that Nothing special. Show was a seed that would grow into a billion-dollar empire. It was 1984 when Oprah walked into the set of AM Chicago. Ratings were dead. The crew had given up hope. But within 3 months, the impossible happened. Ratings skyrocketed. Why? Because Oprah wasn't just hosting a show, she was connecting with people. Viewers didn't feel like they were watching TV. They felt like they were seen. By 1986, AM Chicago was renamed the Oprah Winfrey Show. And just like that, the girl who once wore potato sacks because her family couldn't afford clothes was now wearing tailored designer suits on national TV. But Oprah wasn't just satisfied with being a TV host. She wanted ownership. She knew that being in front of the camera was power, but owning what's behind the camera was true control. So in 1988, she took a leap, creating Harpo Productions. She didn't just work for the show anymore, she owned the show. Suddenly, the paychecks got bigger, the freedom got wider, the influence grew taller. Her net worth? By the early 90s, she was already a multimillionaire. Then came the investments, smart, calculated, and visionary. Real estate, book clubs that turned unknown authors into global bestsellers, film productions, media networks. By 2003, Oprah became the first African-American woman billionaire in history. Think about that. From being a child so poor she wore dresses made of potato sacks, to having more money than the GDP of entire countries. Scene 6, the life of abundance. Now picture this. Oprah wakes up in her California estate, a 42-acre property overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Her morning begins with fresh orange juice from her private orchard, a sunrise yoga session by an infinity pool, and a call to her chef to prepare a gourmet breakfast. She's dressed in a silk robe worth more than the entire monthly rent of the home she grew up in. Later, she steps into a closet so large, it's bigger than the house she was born in. Shelves lined with designer gowns, Versace, Chanel, Dior, jewelry cases filled with diamonds that sparkle like frozen stars. When she steps out for an event, the world stops to see what she's wearing. Paparazzi lights flash. Her name trends on social media. She isn't just rich, she's iconic. But here's what makes her different. The money didn't make her selfish. Oprah built schools for girls in South Africa. She funded scholarships for thousands of students. She donated millions to charities, sometimes quietly, without cameras rolling. Because deep down, she remembered the girl who had nothing. And she knew she could never turn her back on the people still fighting to survive. Her life now is a blend of luxury and legacy. Boardroom meetings with CEOs, interviews with world leaders, private dinners with billionaires, vacations in villas most people will only ever see on postcards. She owns private jets, multiple estates, and a library filled with first edition books signed by history's greatest minds. Yet, she still takes time to sit by the fire with her dogs, read a book, and watch the sunset. And now, she speaks directly to you. I had every reason to fail. Poverty, abuse, rejection. But I made a choice to believe in something bigger than my circumstances. You can have excuses, or you can have success, but you can't have both. Choose success. And once you get it, give back. Because Oprah's story isn't just about money. It's about proof. Proof that your past doesn't define your future.